I also thought tattoos were cool when I was a kid. I enjoyed the book, The Tattooed Man, and I thought the plot twist of a movie where the secret was hidden on the tattoo on the back of a man was cool. That was then, and I'm no longer a kid. Since then, I've continually studied to gain wisdom. I'm glad you're here today. I'm Pastor Guy Gifford, and I hope to give you the complete and proper understanding of tattoos and whether or not getting one is sin before God. It doesn't matter whether or not it's a sin before me, as only God's opinion is the key. Be sure to subscribe and start receiving my videos, which I intend to make on a weekly or more basis. My next video will be on a proper, full understanding of the biblical word sin. There are a million partially baked teachings about God's ways out there, and it's my goal to give you fully baked teachings on God. Pass these along to your friends. Leviticus 19:28 is the only Bible passage that uses the word tattoo. But there are other verses which cover the action of getting a tattoo, such that without this passage, a wise, honest, knowledgeable, Bible-studied person would come to the same conclusion. The verse reads as follows: "You shall not make any cuts in your body for the dead, nor make any tattoo marks on yourselves. I am the Lord." The Leviticus 19:28 passage is standalone and doesn't have any qualifiers or exceptions for tattoos. For getting cut, there are exceptions. For the dead is a qualifier for don't cut yourselves. Because God is an all-wise God who knows that there were life-preserving reasons for cutting our bodies, including modern surgery, God made this exception. But God also knew that there was no valid, godly, beneficial reason for a person to get a tattoo. You would be correct to say that one reason God said it is wrong to get a tattoo is because it was doing what the pagans did. But that's only one of the reasons. Certainly, one must consider the Old and New Covenants. Within the New Covenant, Christians have great freedom, including freedoms which you would likely disagree. But I won't here go into the righteous context for otherwise illegal actions, but they do exist. Following the practices of pagans should be reason enough for tattoos to be fully questioned by all followers of Jesus. For the paths that those who are not fully committed followers of Jesus are motivated to follow are following them by ungodly motivations, such as being a lover of self. There are likely none today who sought a tattoo who didn't do it because of at least ancient pagan influence in the past. One might argue that he or she sought the tattoo because a Christian was a proponent of tattoos, but Christians didn't invent tattoos. Nor did Christians adopt tattoos from following the ungodly example, nor did Christians adopt tattoos from following the godly example of Jesus' disciples. No, rather Christians adopted tattoos from the example somewhere in the preceding line of pagans who were doing it. Tattoos came from imitating pagans. Just a few decades ago, it was unthinkable for Christians to seek tattoos. Tattoos today, in the last days, these last days when God said that men would be markedly known for being lovers of themselves, these tattoos came down to us through the love of pagan practices in society. It is easy for the young, foolish, and poorly trained Christians to see foolish behaviors and be enamored by them. Just look at the viral YouTube challenges. Vanity, conceit, pride, arrogance, and rebellion against God are the reasons people get tattoos. And if there is even one person, even if there is 1% of this in one's motive to get a tattoo, that person has sinned. God's prohibition of tattoos by the Leviticus 19:28 command was not only because he didn't want Israel emulating the pagans. God wanted his people to stand out more clearly as a witness of God's ways to the pagans. The mark on Cahn is sometimes used wrongly as justification for tattoos, with the argument that God put a mark on Cahn, therefore getting a tattoo must be correct. Anyone using that argument doesn't understand the first thing about studying the Bible in context. The argument that if God did it, then it's okay if we do it, is ridiculous. As God's ways are above man's ways as much as heaven is above the earth, and the Creator has infinite freedom toward his creation, but he has not given us his infinite freedom. God can take life at any time and for any reason, but we're not given that same right from God on this or many other things. The context is that Cahn was cursed by God, and the symbol of his curse was this mark that God put on him. Thus, the mark, rather than a blessing from God, was the sign of Cain's curse. If anything, we should understand a tattoo to be a curse rather than something to be desired. We don't know if the mark put on Cahn by God was a tattoo, or leprosy, or blotchy skin pigment loss, or a scar from a wound, or something else. But we do know that Cahn was under God's curse, and the mark was God's symbol of that curse, which also was there to protect Cahn from being killed by men. The Bible says God perfectly and wonderfully made mankind. Mankind was declared made very good at creation, before mankind put any marks on his bodies. Therefore, clearly, adding marks or tattoos to the body makes the body less good, and less what God had intended. The body is no longer how God intended it to be once man-made tattoos are added to it. The Bible says that our bodies are not our own, as they were bought by Christ at the price of his death. Thus we are to use them only to honor Christ. Disobedience of God, even by getting a tattoo that you think honors God, is still disobedience. Reminding us of the verse, to obey is better than sacrifice. To obey God is better than sacrifice to God. Jesus was symbolized by the pure and spotless Lamb. The Jewish high priest was symbolic of Jesus, the coming Messiah, and by law, the high priest had to also be pure and spotless. The high priest couldn't have any defects. If a Jewish priest got a tattoo, he had eliminated himself from becoming the high priest. He had eliminated himself from further service of God. Yes, contextually, under the new covenant, all believers, even non-Hebrew believers, are priests to the world. But did you know that the temple will be rebuilt in Jerusalem? Did you know that in the rebuilt temple there will be some non-Hebrew priests? Is it right for you or any Christian to eliminate yourself from serving God in the temple in Jerusalem if God wanted to choose you for this? Is it right for Christians to influence other Christians to be self-eliminated from such service of God to the nations? Moreover, seeking and getting tattoos is also the sin of dissipation. The sin of dissipation is almost never taught by pastors today, yet it is listed in the New Testament under the New Covenant. Dissipation is the act of wasting one's resources and energy for other than the glory of God. Getting a tattoo is wasting both time and money on foolish vanity. Moreover, tattoos can open up one to unforeseen health consequences, which is also dissipation of one's health. Sometimes people receive diseases through uncleanliness from getting tattoos. Sometimes tattoos stimulate unforeseen severe reactions in the nerve or immune systems. My friend, after getting a tattoo, became highly susceptible to bug bites on skin above a certain coloring on her tattoo. For whatever reason, that's the place the bugs always bit. Tattoos are an historic symbol of the Hebrew Nazi genocide, also of slavery, also of pagan worship, and of pagan priests, and of many, many sins. My summary is, of course, tattoos are sin. But can a person with a tattoo be saved by Christ? Of course, as Christ has even saved some murderers, thieves, and rapists. But tattoos are given to us down a long chain of paganism, and tattoos are emulations of pagans. God told his people, the Israelites, to not get tattoos, and he did so without any qualifications or exceptions to the command. Tattoos corrupt and graffiti our bodies, which belong to God and are not our own to do with whatever we want to do with them. God made our bodies perfect without tattoos. And getting tattoos involve the sin of dissipation in several forms. I have no strong feelings against tattoos or persons who have them, but I do know that God is against them. Although they don't usually rank in the highest of levels of sin, it's still important to understand the big picture of God's ways enough to know how to biblically evaluate tattoos. I'd like you to be sure to subscribe and start receiving my videos, which I intend to make on a weekly or more basis. My next video will be on the proper full understanding for the biblical word sin. There are a million partially baked teachings on God's ways out there, and it's my goal to give you fully baked teachings on God. Pass these along to your friends. God bless you. If you liked my video, be sure to select like, as well as subscribe, and select notify to not miss future great videos.